On this day, 24 years ago, the Los Angeles Lakers faced off against the Portland Trail Blazers in a do-or-die Game 7. The Lakers dominated the regular season, winning 67 games with Shaq anchoring the offense and defense, earning a near unanimous MVP as a result. But in this pivotal Game 7, none of that mattered, as the deep and very savvy Blazers were determined to upset the Lakers. The Blazers were extremely close to doing just that in the most important game of the series, the most important game of the postseason, and the most important game of the Lakers dynasty. But a so-called sidekick was determined to prevent that from happening. Welcome to my channel. I'm CyberTV, but you can also call me Cyber or Kevin. I make videos covering the history of the NBA, the NFL, and whatever other sports league I want to talk about. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to my content, as it'll help with the algorithm. Anyway, on to the video. So for a long time, I've had to constantly hear that Kobe was a sidekick, a Robin, and someone who was carried to his first 3 rings. That has always been a garbage narrative when it came to 2001 and 2002, but when it came to 2000, I never pushed back. His numbers that season were clearly far worse than Shaq's and was arguably his peak, but that was still 4 championships that I believe Kobe should get a ton of credit for, so I thought little of it. But then I did some research on 2000. I started watching the NBA around 2002, so 2000 is kind of before my time. And upon further research, I believe Kobe should get more credit for the 2000 ring than he does. For the 2000 regular season, 23 points, 6 boards, and 5 dimes in those days is not like 23, 6, and 5 in today's game. We will never know what 2000 Kobe averages today because numbers are situational. But we do know that Kobe's 22.5 points ranked 12th in the league that season. In 2023, the 12th leading scorer averaged 26 points per game. The game back then was slow-paced and physical. Offenses were inside out, and spacing was abysmal, especially for perimeter players. I've not even mentioned that Kobe was a top defender that season. The modern equivalent to 2000 Kobe today would probably be a 27-7-7 guy with lockdown defense, with a true shooting percentage of at least 60%. And that would be if you were paired up with a guy like Embiid or Giannis. On his own team, he probably approaches 30 plus with ease. It would not be difficult to build a championship team around 2000 Kobe, seeing as how most of the top teams this season are led by someone similar to 2000 Kobe. The point I'm making is that you have to give 2000 Kobe his fucking respect. He was a top 5 player in 2000 and would still be in the top 5 discussion today. But this is not about the regular season. This is about the postseason. Heading to the finals, Kobe was averaging basically his regular season averages while going against 2 50-win squads and a tough Kings squad. Against the Kings, there were a few performances where he outshined the mythical peak Shaq, such as games 2 and 3, both wins. So he actually contributed more to them winning that series than Shaq did, since he outplayed Shaq in 2 of their 3 wins. And no, that's not because Kobe was terrible in their 2 losses. Kobe played great in game 1, which Shaq played amazing in, and Kobe actually played better than Shaq in game 4. I watched that game a while back and remember Shaq's defense being an issue. In game 5, which was an elimination game in those days, Shaq started out dominating with a 20-point half, while Kobe contributed 12 points on 9 shots, 4 assists, and 3 blocked shots. The Lakers were up 15 against the Kings, which in those days was essentially a death spell. Kobe did not play well in the 3rd quarter, but 4 of his 5 misses came near the end when the Lakers were up around 20 points. So he wasn't hurting the Lakers at all. So again, played about as well as Shaq did in that series. Against the Suns, Kobe played well in games 1 and 2, even scoring the game winner in game 2. That's not enough to give him the nod over Shaq, who was dominant, but Kobe's defense and clutch shot making contributed to the 2-0 start. Game 3 could have been better. Game 4 he arguably outplayed Shaq, but they lost, so I don't really care. But in the decisive game 5, Kobe had the most to do with them winning. At the half, he scored 13 points on 6 of 10 shooting, to Shaq's 9 points on 11 field goal attempts and 4 free throw attempts. The Lakers were up 49-23, and at no point were the Suns a threat to make a comeback. The final stat lines would make one believe that they had equal contribution, but Kobe played way better than Shaq when the game was still competitive. Advantage, Kobe. And now the Blazers series. The most important series, as the Blazers had the second best record in the entire league and were an extremely deep squad. Whoever won this series was winning it all. Game 1 was the Hack-a-Shaq game. The Lakers dominated the first half, and the Blazers believed the best strategy to cut the 21-point deficit was to foul Shaq. So the second half was spent on sending Shaq to the free throw line, where he made 13 of 27 free throw attempts. Kobe had 12 points on 4 for 6 shooting and 5 assists at the half. He contributed as much as Shaq did to the 21-point lead, but because of the Blazers' second half strategy, Kobe never really got to see the ball in the second half. In Game 2, Kobe was atrocious as the Lakers were blown out 77-106. But in Game 3, which was a win, Kobe outplayed Shaq as he was elite both offensively and defensively to secure a 2-1 series lead. Game 4 was actually another game where Kobe was a big contributor to the win, as like in Game 3, his defense on Pippen contributed to Pippen's 4 of 12 shooting and 5 turnovers. I will concede that Shaq played better though. Game 5 is a different matter. Kobe was atrocious and was the main reason they lost a winnable game. Kobe had a way better showing in Game 6. For the entire game he outplayed Shaq, but I would argue that his bad first quarter and foul trouble in the second half contributed as much to the loss as Shaq's own performance did. Still, going to Game 7, I felt that Kobe contributed about as much as Shaq did in their 3 wins, especially with the above context. And last time I checked, you win a series because of how you played in your wins, not because of how you played in your losses. In a do or die Game 7, which again was by far the most important game of the season and the most important game of the Lakers dynasty, the Lakers started out rough, but not because of Kobe. At the half, the Lakers were down only 3, but Kobe led the Lakers in points, rebounds, blocked shots, and had only 1 turnover. He was the only starter that did not have a negative plus minus. For the next 14 minutes, the Blazers were playing much better basketball, outscoring the Lakers 33-21 to enter the last 10.5 minutes of regulation up 15, which remember, in those days, a 15-point lead was basically a death spell. The heavily favored Lakers, with the best record in the league by far, the consensus best player in the world, and the consensus best coach in the world, and a top 5 player in the world to boot, were about to suffer another humiliating postseason exit. Kobe was the only one that showed up in the first 3 quarters of this game. The consensus best player in the world was AWOL. The comeback initially began at the 10-10 mark, when Shaq scored to cut the lead down to 13. A Brian Shaw 3 cut the lead down to 10. Then a Kobe free throw cut it down to single digits. The next 3 scores came from a Shaq free throw, a Horry 3, and a Kobe 2 to cut the lead down to 3 with nearly 6 minutes remaining. A Brian Shaw 3 off a Shaq assist ties the game with exactly 4 minutes to spare. Somehow, the Blazers were unable to score during the 6-minute stretch, but their scoring drought ended when Rasheed Wallace made a layup with just under 3 minutes remaining. It was in these last 3 minutes when arguably the greatest duo in NBA history both woke up. I mean, Kobe was awake from tip-off, but now Shaq was about to wake up. Shaq contributed 4 quick points off a layup and a rare 2 for 2 from the line. The layup came with 2 minutes remaining, and it gave the Lakers their first lead since halfway into the first quarter. The lead was short-lived as Rasheed Wallace made a quick bucket to tie the game up again with 1:50 remaining. But then Rasheed fouled Kobe in the next possession, and Kobe made both free throws to take the lead. A lead the Lakers would not relinquish again. Still, the outcome was still in doubt in the next few possessions, and Kobe proceeded to make a clutch 2 to put the Lakers up 4 with 1:09 remaining. Pippen proceeded to miss a tough 3 off a good Rice contest, and then this famous sequence happened. Watch. The clincher, as I like to call it. Notice how Kobe was being guarded by the best defender? Notice how little space he had to operate? And notice how Shaq had a wide open lob off the gravity that Kobe drew? If you have been paying attention to the video, you will see that Kobe drew a ton of defenders despite having prime Shaq. But here are a few more images from Game 7 alone, demonstrating that Kobe was being guarded like the all-time great that he was, even as early as age 21. The game ended with Kobe missing 2 uncharacteristic free throws, but the Lakers were up 4 with 25 seconds left, so they were inconsequential. The Lakers won this game 89-84 and advanced to the finals for the first time since 1991. Kobe led the Lakers in points, rebounds, assists, and blocks. They proceeded to beat the Pacers in 6, primarily because of how dominant Shaq was. But for many, they remember it as the series where Kobe was carried. Never mind that he was injured for most of the series, or they had arguably the most important performance between the two with his Game 4, or that the Pacers were arguably the weakest team the Lakers faced in the playoffs. In terms of wins, the Pacers' 56 wins came second to the Blazers' 59 wins, but it's worth noting that the Pacers played most of their games against fellow Eastern Conference opponents, which was by far the weaker conference. When adjusting for SRS, which accounts for margin of victory and strength of opponent, the Pacers were weaker than the Blazers and Suns, and were not that much stronger than the Kings. In other words, the Pacers were a second-round team at best in the West. People like to assume that the best competition comes in the finals, but that is not logical when conference disparity exists. In order for the Lakers to win the championship, they had to beat the top teams, and the top teams were out west. The East was a sacrificial lamb during that 99-03 period as no truly dominant team emerged. Therefore, it makes more sense to look at how the champions of that period fared against the true top teams, and not just the sacrificial lamb out east. Against the Kings, the Suns, and the Blazers, I believe Kobe outplayed Shaq in 8 of those 17 games, 6 of those in wins. So he outplayed Shaq in half of their wins leading up to the finals, and he was about as big of a contributor in a few more games as well. Shaq was obviously the best player on the team and the man for all intents and purposes, and if you count the finals, he did perform as the best player more often than not. But I believe Kobe deserves more credit for the 2000 championship than Duncan gets for 2014, than Kareem gets for 87-89, and that Pippen gets for all 6 of his rings. Regardless, without Kobe's heroics in Game 7, the early 2000s Lakers might not be known as the last team to three-peat. Anyway, thanks for making it this far. Leave a like and subscribe as it will help the algorithm out. Cyber out.